tell us a little bit about your father and your family and how y'all came here and so on.
I'll try. To begin with, I was only 10 or 11. 10 years old at 46 and 11 years old at 48. And I remember things from the perspective of somebody that age, come right down to it. My father was educated in Canada. He went to McMaster University where...
Tell about the Jamaican connection with Maryland, because that's important.
Because I'm extremely interested. I know too many of you there. I know too many of you there. You haven't been to Jamaica in a minute. No, that was patois. I know not too many of us here in Charleston right now. So to hear that there was a Jamaican connection way back then,
Oh, yeah.
I'm all ears and cameras.
My father was born in Jamaica. In fact, his family was born in Jamaica. It's an aside, but
It's important.
learned Greek on his own from a textbook while he was essentially in a country store in the hills. And that really got him started, I think. He became a surveyor, and he originally came to Canada to pursue that. But along the way, he switched over to ministry. And by the time he left Canada, he was an ordained Baptist minister. The Baptists, of course, were more like Anglicans then. So that's another observation. He met my mother in Canada. It turns out there are black Canadians, because it's another aside, but I'm able to throw it out. Her grandmother, my great-grandmother, left this area, Beaufort or Charleston, on the Underground Railroad. I'm still trying to find out if she was slave or free, but that's my homework. She went to Collingwood in Ontario, and that's where my mother's family started. So my father met my mother when he went to Hamilton to McMaster University. He was ordained and they went back to Jamaica. And he did quite a bit of time in Jamaica. And then for several reasons, which we can pursue later.
No, tell the story, because I think it's relevant.
He got involved with independence, and I've read some of the tracts that he wrote for independence, and he could have been hanged. But I did go back with him 20 years after I got out of school, and every single person I met in Jamaica that he'd been around with had been in jail. So I suspect that if he had stayed in Jamaica in 1944, or our family had stayed, he'd have been in jail as well. And that wasn't going to work very well for him at the time. But essentially, my father's family was formed in Jamaica, and in 1944 we left and headed by way of the U.S. to Canada. We couldn't take a ship. They had already sailed for Canada to revisit my mother's parents, but the Germans were sinking everything in sight. We were sort of hungry as well because of that. So we took a Pan Am clipper ship. This is one of those seaplanes that you climb up the top and down into. And that's how we got from Jamaica to Guantanamo to Miami, I think it must have been. And that's the first time I got off the plane straight into the back of the bus, which I still remember. Because it wasn't the back of the bus, it was a trailer. And we took the railroad up the eastern seaboard into Hamilton in Canada, which is right across the border from Buffalo, actually. So we stayed in, our family stayed in Hamilton for a year. So 44 to 45 we were in Canada. 46 we came to this country. There's always been Jamaicans in New York.
Yes, sir.
My aunt was there, and we stayed with her, and my father found Plymouth, and I'm still not sure how. I have some faint idea how, but I'm not positive. But we ended up didn't go to school in Canada, so I started, must have been 6th grade. Yeah, pretty sure it was the 6th grade here in Charleston at Avery. And my father has always been my example, and pretty good one. So I know how he handled things. I know what he did. Some of them outraged my mother, but he would do what he thought was necessary as a minister to take care of what he was looking at. And that showed up some other times that I will probably mention along the way. But we were down here. I went to school at Avery. We were in a very transitional stage because, well, I was of an age where going to school at a place like Avery was quite formative, and I learned some things that have always stayed with me the rest of my life, and that's been 60-odd years. I don't want to change the subject from my father, but I know what happened to him. I know his activities. He didn't make a big thing of it, so that we had to dig out a lot of it afterwards. My brother actually did go get from Freedom of Information. He got the FBI file on our father after he passed. So I know that they actually found out everything about him from the day he was born to the day he passed away. And I think it's a waste of their time, but that's what they were doing. So most of what I saw him do was obviously as a bystander, because if you're only 10 or 11, you're in no shape to do anything. I was a little anxious because I was aware when that person he was with got killed, and I remember sitting up trying to figure out how to murder anybody who would harm my father, but I won't go any farther than that.
Let me just, sure. I was just going to reference, I want you to talk about what you remember about Robeson in your house in the Bronx, the one that's on, but.
I remember meeting him.
Go ahead. Yeah.
And he gave us all his autograph. I still have it. It's framed in my apartment next to a picture of my mother and my father.
I should have brought that down.
It wouldn't fit on a plane. It's a picture like that.
Well, you send us a copy.
Oh, yeah. But I didn't go to his performances or anything that he did because I was a little kid, and children weren't going to be in that kind of a place because, among other things, it could have been risky. And I think my father had enough judgment that he wasn't going to put us where something might happen. So I knew about what happened. My sister was really aware when something came through the window, because somebody essentially threw a rock through the window. But at the time I didn't know. I was too busy eating because we were in the next room. So that a lot of the happenings I had to find out afterward. And I was 11 years old and real busy doing what 11-year-olds do. I took that picture, for one thing. That's the kind of thing I did. Yeah. I was into cameras and art then, and they were quite, the experiences I had down here I know were quite formative, as I said, because the two things I know for sure, I learned to read music, to sing, for better or for worse. And I've been doing that ever since, for 50 years or so. And I won a Scholastic Art Award. I had a really said, I was really engrossed with what 11-year-olds do. And I have to put some of them in perspective afterwards, in retrospect. That was the size of it.
And soon after the Robeson incident, his father was walking down the street. Well, do you know the name of the label?
Not really, not at all. I've never even seen it. There were no newspaper accounts.
Right. There was, yeah.
I know something happened because, like I said, I was a little anxious for my father. More than anxious. But that was it.
Yeah.
And he did not carry that around with him. He would do something, and he either does it or he doesn't. And he doesn't talk a lot about that kind of thing. Yes.
Well, they were walking down the street. I think it was Calhoun Street. His father and a labor organizer, and the car pulled over. Guy jumped out and shot the labor organizer dead on the street. Just dropped him on the street. And the cops came, and as I understand it, his father identified the car, the license plate, may have even known the guy who it was, who had shot him. But nothing happened. There's no record, there's no police. We had the Post and Courier, when I was working on the article, if you hadn't seen the little article out front about how this got started, be sure to pick up a copy. The Post and Courier had no record of it. The police had no record of it. It just didn't happen. And it was soon thereafter that Reverend Dyer decided this wasn't a good place to raise a family, so they left. And if anybody's interested, I've got the FBI Freedom of Information request about him, about them following him around and so on and so forth. So.
Well, how did you hear about the shooting? There's no record of it. How did you hear about this shooting if there's no record of it?
Oh, they told me.
Oh.
Charles and his brother and his sister, they told me about it, and they basically, I mean, it's one family, so they all had the same story. But there was some intimation in the Freedom of Information report. It's been a while since I read it, but it was the Freedom of Information report talked about the shooting. So I mean, there was some independent documentation that it happened.
And I think Robeson mentions it in one particular oral history as well. It's just an aside in some oral history where he talks about a labor organizer being shot in Charleston.
Yeah.
And again, no names, no date, and stuff like that. But Robeson himself, I think, mentions it in oral history too.
Yeah. So, Mr. Robeson, tell us